The Great Hall of Station Prime was packed with beings from across the galaxy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their seats, their different shapes and colors making the place look like a living rainbow. Some had fur, others had scales, and a few looked like walking crystals. But today, all eyes were on one figure standing at the center stage. Ambassador Keth looked tired. His blue skin was pale and his forearms trembled slightly as he gripped the speaking platform. The Vortian had requested this emergency session and no one knew why. For 50 years, Keth had been quiet about the human conflict. Now, suddenly, he wanted to talk. "Friends," Keth began, his voice carrying across the silent hall. "I stand before you today not as a proud warrior, but as someone who learned a terrible lesson. 50 years ago, my people made a mistake. We thought we understood war. We thought we understood victory. We were wrong." A low murmur ran through the crowd. The Vortian Empire was known for its military strength. They had conquered dozens of worlds. What could have shaken them so badly? "Some of you have heard whispers about the humans," Keth continued. "You know we fought them. You know. We lost ships, but you don't know the truth. You don't know what they really are." He pressed a button and a hologram appeared above his head. It showed a star map with several systems marked in red. This is where it started. The Kepler system. We found a small, human research station there. Just one station, maybe 200 people. We had 12 warships. Our generals called it a cleanup mission. Keth's voice grew quieter, and the hall strained to listen. We surrounded them. We sent the usual message. Surrender and you will be relocated. Resist and you will be destroyed. Every species we had ever met chose surrender. It made sense. Why die when you could live? The hologram changed, showing the research station as a small dot surrounded by larger Vortian ships. The humans sent back one word. No. Several delegates laughed. One word against 12 warships seemed funny to them. "We thought they were bluffing," Keth said, his face showing no humor. "We thought they would change their minds when they saw our weapons power up. We were patient. We gave them time to think." He paused, looking down at his hands. "They used that time to turn their research station into a bomb." The laughter stopped. "When we moved closer, they detonated their own home, their own people, their own children. The explosion was so big it destroyed 3 of our ships and damaged 2 others. 200 humans died in that blast. They chose death over surrender." A Zellan delegate stood up, his green tentacles waving. "Ambassador Keth, this is just one incident. Perhaps they were fanatics or—" "Sit down," Keth said firmly. "I'm not finished." The Zellan slowly returned to his seat. "After the explosion, we found escape pods. 37 humans had survived. They were heading to an asteroid field. My commanders wanted to forget about them. 37 people couldn't hurt anyone, they said. But our orders were clear. No human could be left alive in our territory." The HFY hologram showed the asteroid field, a dark region filled with floating rocks. We followed them. 9 ships now, after the losses at the station. Against 37 civilians, it should have been over in minutes. Keth's voice became hollow. "It took us 3 days. He pressed another button. The hologram showed the inside of an old mining facility. They had found an abandoned mine. With tools meant for digging rocks, they built weapons. With computers meant for tracking ore, they created a defense system. With mining charges meant for breaking asteroids, they turned the entire field into a death trap. The images showed crude but effective modifications. Mining lasers mounted on makeshift turrets, ore processors converted into missile launchers, drilling equipment turned into armor plating. Commander Blake was their leader, Keth said. A woman who studied plants before the war. She had no military training, but she understood something we didn't. "What?" asked a delegate from the back. "She understood that humans don't fight to win. They fight to make sure you lose too." Keth gestured, and the hologram showed the battle. Vortian ships moved carefully through the asteroid field while explosions bloomed around them. For 3 days they held us off. Every time we moved forward, mines exploded. Every time we tried to land troops, their makeshift weapons drove us back. They used their own supply ships as decoys, filling them with explosives and sending them at our fleet. The display showed Vortian vessels damaged and drifting, their hulls torn open by mining charges. On the third day, we finally broke through. We lost 2 more ships, but we reached the facility. We were ready to capture the survivors. Keth's 4 hands clenched into fists. The facility was empty, but Blake had left us a message. Words appeared in the hologram, written in simple letters. We don't surrender. We don't retreat. We don't ask for mercy and we don't give it. They had escaped in mining pods while we were fighting the automated defenses. But before they left, they had rigged the entire facility to explode when we entered. The hologram showed a massive explosion as the mining facility detonated. I lost half my remaining crew in that blast. Good soldiers who had families, who had futures. Blake killed them all with equipment meant for digging holes in rocks. Keth looked up at the assembled delegates. But that wasn't the end. We tracked the survivors to their home colonies. We thought surely now, facing our remaining fleet, they would see reason. We had 6 warships left. They had converted cargo, ships and mining vessels. He shook his head slowly. They didn't see reason, they saw targets. The hall was completely silent now. Even the air recycling system seemed quieter. General Hayes met us at the colony. His flagship was a converted ore hauler. It had no armor, no real weapons. When I offered him terms of surrender, he laughed. Keth's voice cracked slightly. He said, "We already told you. We don't surrender." Then he rammed his ship into mine. The hologram showed the collision, the explosion, the debris. Hayes died with a smile on his face. I saw it through his bridge window as his ship broke apart. He was happy to die if it meant taking us with him. Keth looked around the room, meeting as many eyes as he could. That was 50 years ago. Now I hear the Zellan hegemony is preparing to attack human space. They think their technology will make the difference. They think they can succeed where we failed. He straightened up, his voice growing stronger. I am here to tell you, don't attack the humans. They are not like us. When we lose, we surrender and hope for mercy. When they lose, they keep fighting until they drag you down with them. The warning hung in the air like a physical thing. They don't give last chances, Keth said finally, because they don't ask for them. Ambassador Keth paused for a moment, letting his words sink into the minds of the Galactic Council. The Great Hall remained silent, waiting for him to continue. He could see the doubt in their eyes. They still didn't understand what humans truly were. I can see you don't believe me, Keth said, his voice steady. You think I'm exaggerating. You think fear has made me weak. Let me tell you exactly what happened in that asteroid field. Let me tell you about Commander Blake. He pressed another button on his control pad. The hologram above him changed, showing a detailed view of the mining facility where the human survivors had hidden. Blake was a botanist, Keth continued. She studied flowers and trees before the war. She had 2 children back on Earth, a husband who worked in a library. She was not a soldier, but when we cornered her and 36 other survivors in that old mine, she became something else. The hologram zoomed in, showing the interior of the facility. Crude modifications were everywhere. Mining equipment had been torn apart and rebuilt into weapons. We surrounded the asteroid field with our 9 remaining ships. The facility was deep inside, protected by hundreds of floating rocks. We sent them a message. Surrender now, and we will exile you to a prison planet. Your families will be allowed to visit. You will live. Keth's 4 hands gestured at the display. Blake's answer came back in 2 minutes. She said, We told you already. We don't surrender. If you want us, come and take us. A delegate from the Crystal Collective raised a shimmering hand. Surely she was bluffing. 37 people against 9 warships? That's what we thought, Keth replied. Admiral Vex was my commanding officer then. He was confident. He said, These humans are emotional creatures. They make threats they cannot keep. We will be home for dinner. The hologram showed the Vortian fleet moving into the asteroid field. The ships were massive compared to the floating rocks around them. We entered the field in formation. Our sensors showed the facility about 10 kilometers ahead. Simple approach, simple capture. Admiral Vex even prepared the prisoner transport pods. Keth's expression darkened. The first explosion came from nowhere. A mining charge hidden in a small asteroid. It took out our lead destroyer's engines. We stopped to help, thinking it was just one bomb. The display showed the damaged ship, drifting helplessly among the rocks. Then the second explosion came, and the third. Blake had spent 3 days turning the entire asteroid field into a minefield. Every rock could be a bomb. Every shadow could hide death. The hologram animated the battle. Vortian ships moved slowly through the field while explosions bloomed around them like deadly flowers. We tried to scan for the bombs, but Blake was clever. She had used the natural metals in the asteroids to hide the charges. Our sensors couldn't tell the difference between a normal rock and one packed with explosives. Keth paused, remembering. After 6 hours, we had lost another ship and had 4 more damaged. Admiral Vex was getting angry. He ordered us to blast our way through, destroy every asteroid in our path. The display showed Vortian energy weapons firing, turning asteroids into dust and debris. That's when Blake showed us her second surprise. She had been watching us through hidden cameras in the rocks. Every time we destroyed an asteroid, she would detonate charges in other areas, creating more debris to hide behind. She was using our own weapons against us. A Mantis delegate clicked his mandibles nervously. How could she coordinate so many explosions? The mining facility had a central computer system, Keth explained. Blake had connected it to all the charges. She could trigger any bomb in the field from her command center. She was playing with us like a child plays with toys. The hologram showed the view from inside the mining facility. Blake sat at a bank of monitors watching the Vortian ship struggle through her trap. Her face was calm, focused. She looked like she was solving a puzzle, not fighting for her life. On the second day, Admiral Vex tried a new approach. He sent small fighters ahead to clear the path. Faster ships that could dodge the explosions. The display showed sleek Vortian fighters darting between the asteroids. Blake was ready for this, too. She had rigged some of the charges with motion sensors. The faster the fighters moved, the more bombs would explode. Our pilots had to choose, move slowly and be easy targets, or move fast and trigger more explosions. Keth gestured, and the hologram showed fighter after fighter being destroyed. We lost 12 fighters in 4 hours. Good pilots, experienced warriors. Blake killed them all while sitting in a chair, pressing buttons on a computer. By the third day, Admiral Vex was desperate. He had lost 2 ships completely and had 6 more badly damaged. He decided to ram through the field at full speed, accepting the losses. The hologram showed the remaining Vortian ships charging forward, explosions erupting all around them. Blake let us come. She waited until we were almost at the facility, until we thought we had won. Then she triggered her final surprise. Keth's voice dropped to almost a whisper. She had turned the facility's ore processing plant into a massive bomb. When we were close enough, she detonated it. The explosion was so big it cracked asteroids 5 kilometers away. The display showed the enormous blast, debris flying in all directions. I lost another ship and most of my crew in that explosion, but somehow, some of us survived. We reached the facility. Keth looked around the hall. It was empty. Blake and her people had escaped in mining pods while we were fighting through the field. But she had left us something. Words appeared in the hologram. Welcome to our home. Sorry we can't stay to chat. Blake. Below the message was a timer. Counting down from 60 seconds. The hall was completely silent now. Blake had rigged the entire facility to explode. She wanted to make sure we understood her message. Even in defeat, even while running away, she would not let us have her base. The hologram showed Vortian soldiers running desperately for their ships as the countdown reached 0. Half my remaining crew died in that blast. The facility took 3 more of my ships with it when it exploded. Blake had killed more of us while running away than she had while fighting. Keth straightened up, looking at each delegate. That night, as we counted our dead, Admiral Vex said something I will never forget. He said, "These humans don't fight like soldiers. They fight like viruses. They don't try to beat you. They try to make sure beating them kills you too." He paused, letting the words sink in. Blake and her 36 survivors had destroyed or damaged 13 Vortian warships. They had killed over 3,000 of our people. And they had done it all with mining equipment and flower arranging skills. Keth's voice grew firm. That was when we learned the first rule about humans. They don't fight to win. They fight to make sure you can't win either. The delegates in the Galactic Council Hall shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Ambassador Keth could see the fear beginning to creep into their eyes. But he wasn't finished. The worst was yet to come. After the asteroid field, Keth continued, Admiral Vex wanted to go home. He had lost 7 ships and most of his crew. He said we had learned our lesson about humans, but High Command disagreed. The hologram above Keth changed, showing a new star system with several planets orbiting a yellow sun. The escaped humans were heading to the outer colonies. Military intelligence said Blake and her survivors would warn the other humans about our tactics. They said we had to finish the job before word spread. Keth's voice grew heavy with memory, so we followed them. 6 damaged ships against what we thought would be frightened colonists. We still believed we could end this quickly. The display zoomed in on one of the planets, showing cities and space stations in orbit. When we arrived at New Boston Colony, we found something unexpected. The humans were waiting for us. General Hayes had taken command of their defense force. A new figure appeared in the hologram. Hayes was a tall, thin man with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple military uniform with no decorations. Hayes had been a logistics officer, Keth explained. His job was moving supplies and equipment. He had never commanded a battle fleet, but when Blake's message reached the colony, he became their leader. The hologram showed the human defense force. It was a strange collection of ships, cargo haulers, mining vessels, passenger transports, and a few old patrol boats. We sent Hayes the same message we had sent to everyone else. Surrender and be relocated. Your people will not be harmed. Keth paused, remembering Hayes's response. Hayes sent back a video message. He was standing on the bridge of his flagship, a converted cargo hauler called the Morning Star. Behind him we could see children's drawings on the walls, pictures of families, of pets, of home. The hologram showed Hayes speaking calmly into the camera. He said, Admiral Vex, I have a message from Commander Blake. She says thank you for the target practice. She also says we have a gift for you. We hope you like surprises. Several delegates in the council hall made nervous sounds. They were beginning to understand how humans thought. We should have run then, Keth said quietly. We should have turned around and never come back. But Admiral Vex was angry. He had lost too many ships, too many friends. He wanted revenge. The hologram showed the battle beginning. The Vortian ships, still larger and more powerful, moved toward the human fleet. The battle should have been over in minutes. Our weapons were stronger, our armor thicker, our crews more experienced. But Hayes had learned from Blake's example. The display showed the human ships moving in strange patterns, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. Hayes didn't try to fight us ship to ship. He used his cargo haulers like rams, filling them with explosives and sending them at our vessels. He used mining ships to drop debris in our path. He used passenger transports as decoys, making us waste ammunition on empty shells. Keth gestured, and the hologram showed a cargo ship ramming into a Vortian cruiser, both vessels exploding in a ball of fire. Captain Reed was commanding that hauler, Keth said. She had 3 children back on the colony. She could have evacuated with the other civilians. Instead, she volunteered to pilot the ram ship. The display showed Reed's face in the moments before impact. Like Hayes, she was smiling. Reed died destroying my sister's ship, the glorious victory. 400 Vortian crew members died with her. She traded her life for 400 of ours and seemed happy about the deal. A crystalline delegate raised a shimmering appendage. Surely this was desperation, not strategy. That's what we thought, Keth replied. But Hayes had more surprises. The hologram showed human fighters, tiny compared to the Vortian ships swarming around the larger vessels. These weren't military fighters. They were civilian shuttles, work pods, even personal aircraft. The pilots were teachers, farmers, shop owners, people who had never fired a weapon in anger. The display showed one of the small craft attaching something to the hull of a Vortian ship. They were planting bombs by hand. These civilian pilots were flying close enough to touch our ships, attaching mining charges to our hulls, then flying away before the explosions. Keth's voice filled with a mixture of horror and admiration. Miller was a school teacher. She taught mathematics to 8-year-old children. But that day, she flew her shuttle right up to our flagship and stuck a bomb to our engine intake. The explosion crippled our main drive. The hologram showed Miller's shuttle, tiny against the massive Vortian ship. When we tried to capture her shuttle, Miller set off another bomb inside her own craft. She died rather than be taken prisoner. A teacher who spent her life helping children learn became a weapon that nearly destroyed our command ship. The battle continued in the hologram, showing more and more desperate human tactics. For 6 hours they kept coming. Every time we destroyed one of their ships, 2 more would appear. When their weapons ran out, they used their ships as weapons. When their ships were destroyed, the survivors would put on spacesuits and continue fighting with hand tools. Keth pointed to the display, showing figures in spacesuits floating between the ships. Engineer Park had been working on the colony's water recycling system when the battle started. When his repair ship was destroyed, he didn't try to escape. He floated in space with a welding torch trying to cut through our hull plating. The hologram showed Park, a small figure in a bulky spacesuit working methodically on the side of a giant warship. It should have been funny. One man with a simple tool trying to damage a ship designed to survive asteroid impacts. But Park wasn't alone. The display showed dozens of similar figures all working on different parts of the Vortian ships. They were everywhere. Maintenance workers, technicians, even janitors, all floating in space, all trying to damage our ships with whatever tools they had. Most of them died, but some succeeded. Small holes became big holes. Big holes became critical failures. Keth's voice grew quiet with respect. Hayes coordinated it all from his flagship. Even when the Morning Star was crippled, even when his bridge was on fire, he kept giving orders, kept encouraging his people, kept fighting. The hologram showed Hayes's ship, badly damaged but still moving. Finally, Admiral Vex had enough. He ordered all remaining ships to focus fire on Hayes's flagship. We were going to end this by killing their leader. The display showed energy beams converging on the human ship. Hayes could have surrendered then. His ship was dying, his crew was dying, his colony was about to fall. Any reasonable commander would have tried to save his people. Keth looked around the council hall. But Hayes wasn't reasonable. He was human. The hologram showed the Morning Star turning toward the Vortian flagship, its engines glowing brighter and brighter. Hayes set his reactor to overload and aimed his ship directly at us. He was going to ram the flagship and take Admiral Vex with him. The display showed the collision course, the 2 ships racing toward each other. At the last second, Admiral Vex ordered an emergency turn. We barely avoided the impact. Hayes's ship exploded right where we had been, close enough that the blast damaged our hull. Keth paused, his voice heavy with memory. Through the viewport I could see Hayes on his bridge as his ship broke apart. He was still giving orders to his crew, still trying to save his people, even as he rode his exploding ship into death. The ambassador looked up at the assembled delegates, and he was smiling. Just like Blake, just like Reed, just like all of them. He was happy to die if it meant hurting us. The hall was silent except for the hum of the air recyclers. That was when I understood, Keth said finally. Humans don't fight for victory. They fight for spite. They would rather die than let you win easily. Ambassador Keth stood quietly for a moment, watching the faces of the Galactic Council delegates. He could see the disbelief in their eyes. They still thought he was telling stories, not sharing the truth about humanity's true nature. After New Boston, Keth continued, we limped home with 3 damaged ships. Half our fleet was gone. Admiral Vex was broken mentally and physically. He kept saying the same thing over and over. They're not natural. No species fights like that. The hologram above Keth changed, showing the grand halls of Vortian High Command. Generals and admirals sat around a massive table, their faces serious. When we reported what had happened, our leaders didn't believe us. They said we were making excuses for our failures. They said humans were just another primitive species that needed to be controlled. Keth's forearms gestured helplessly. General Thane was the worst. He had never fought humans. He said we were weak, that we had let emotions cloud our judgment. He convinced High Command that what we needed was overwhelming force. The display showed a massive fleet of ships, hundreds of vessels stretching as far as the eye could see. They assembled the Grand Fleet, 300 warships under Admiral Dex, the largest military force in Vortian history. They were going to solve the human problem once and for all. A Mantis delegate clicked his mandibles. Surely 300 ships could handle a few human colonies. Keth's laugh was bitter. That's exactly what Admiral Dex said. He called it pest control. He said they would sweep through human space in 3 weeks and be home for the victory celebration. The hologram showed the human star systems, now defended by hastily assembled fleets. But the humans had been preparing too. Word of our attacks had spread through their colonies. They knew we were coming. The display zoomed in on a massive defensive line. Hundreds of ships, space stations, and orbital platforms formed a barrier across space. They called it the Titan Defense Line. Every human military ship, every converted civilian vessel, every armed space station they could move. Captain Rosa commanded the defense. A new figure appeared in the hologram. Rosa was a middle-aged woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She wore a simple fleet uniform with captain's bars. Rosa had been a cargo ship captain before the war, Keth explained. She moved supplies between colonies, nothing more. But when the Grand Fleet approached, she became the commander of humanity's last stand. The display showed Rosa's flagship, a converted heavy freighter bristling with weapons. When Admiral Dex sent his surrender demand, Rosa's reply was broadcast on all human channels. Every human in their territory heard her words. Rosa's image appeared larger, speaking directly to the camera. She said, "Admiral Dex, you've come a long way to die. We've prepared a warm welcome for you. Every human ship, every human station, every human fighter is ready to make you pay for every meter of space you take. We don't surrender. We don't retreat. We make you earn every victory with blood." The hologram showed the massive Vortian fleet approaching the human defense line. Admiral Dex was confident. 300 ships against maybe 60 human vessels. The odds were impossible. Keth paused, his voice growing heavy. The battle lasted 6 months. Gasps came from several delegates. 6 months was unheard of for a space battle. Rosa's strategy was simple, Keth continued. Make every meter of space cost us dearly. The humans didn't try to win, they tried to make winning too expensive to bear. The hologram showed the first engagement. Human ships charged directly at the Vortian fleet, exploding against the larger vessels. In the first hour, we destroyed 20 human ships. Admiral Dex was pleased. At that rate, the battle would be over by evening. The display showed more human ships approaching, but these were different. But the humans weren't finished. These new ships were filled with explosives, piloted by volunteers who knew they wouldn't return home. Keth pointed to one of the ships, in the display. Lieutenant Park was 19 years old. He had joined the human navy 3 months earlier. His ship was already damaged, but instead of retreating, he aimed it at our flagship and activated his engines. The hologram showed the young human ship racing toward the Vortian command vessel. Park could have ejected. His escape pod would have saved his life. Instead, he stayed with his ship and flew it directly into our cruiser, Eternal Glory. Both ships were destroyed. Park traded his life for 800 of ours. The battle continued in the display, showing wave after wave of human attacks. For every ship we destroyed, 2 more would appear. Cargo haulers filled with bombs, passenger liners converted to missile platforms, even civilian yachts armed with mining charges. A crystalline delegate shimmered nervously. Where did they get so many ships? Every human who could fly volunteered, Keth replied. Farmers brought their crop dusters, miners brought their ore haulers, families brought their personal shuttles. They all wanted to fight. The hologram showed an amazing variety of vessels, from massive cargo ships to tiny personal craft. Dr. Chen was a medical researcher. She had spent her life saving people, healing the sick. But when the call came, she loaded her research ship with explosives and flew it into our battle line. The display showed Chen's small ship weaving between the massive Vortian vessels. Chen's ship was too small to do much damage, but she wasn't alone. 50 other civilian ships followed her lead. 50 people who had never been soldiers, all choosing to die as warriors. The battle scenes grew more desperate, showing human space stations being moved into the combat zone. When their mobile ships were destroyed, the humans started using their space stations as weapons. They would move entire orbital platforms into our path, then detonate them when we got close. Keth gestured to show a massive explosion in space. Station Commander Lee had 10,000 civilians on his platform. When Admiral Dex demanded surrender, Lee evacuated the civilians and turned his station into a giant bomb. The hologram showed the space station, as large as a small city, moving slowly toward the Vortian fleet. Lee could have surrendered. His civilians were safe. His duty was done, but he stayed with his station and flew it into our formation. The explosion destroyed 12 of our ships. The display showed month after month of fighting, with the human numbers slowly decreasing but the Vortian losses mounting steadily. By the third month, Admiral Dex had lost half his fleet. By the fifth month, he was down to 70 ships. The humans had maybe 20 vessels left, but they kept fighting. Keth's voice grew quiet with respect. Captain Rosa's flagship was the last to fall. Her ship was a burning wreck. Her crew was dead or dying, her weapons were gone. Any sane commander would have surrendered. The hologram showed Rosa's damaged ship, drifting in space with fires burning inside. Instead, Rosa activated her self-destruct and aimed her ship at Admiral Dex's flagship. She died in the explosion, but she took our command ship with her. The display showed the final explosion, 2 ships destroying each other in a ball of fire. When the battle finally ended, Admiral Dex had 50 ships left out of 300. The human defense line was gone, but so was most of our grand fleet. Keth looked around the council hall. Admiral Dex returned home a broken man. He said the same thing Admiral Vex had said. They're not natural. No species should fight like that. The ambassador's voice grew firm. That was when we learned the second rule about humans. They don't fight until they cannot win. They fight until you cannot win either. The Great Hall of Station Prime was completely silent. Ambassador Keth could see the shock in the delegates' eyes. They were finally beginning to understand what humanity truly was. But his story wasn't finished yet. After the Titan defense line, Keth said quietly, the Vortian Empire was broken. We had lost our grand fleet, our best admirals, and the respect of our own people. The war had lasted 2 years and cost us everything. The hologram above him showed Vortian worlds, their cities, dark in their populations in mourning. Our economy collapsed. Our military was in ruins. Our allies abandoned us, all because we had tried to conquer a species that refused to be conquered. Keth's forearms trembled slightly as he continued. The humans never asked for peace terms. They never demanded territory or reparations. They simply waited, as if they knew we couldn't continue. The display showed human ships patrolling their borders, but not advancing into Vortian space. High Command wanted to try again. They talked about building new fleets, developing better weapons, finding human weaknesses. But Admiral Dex stopped them. A new figure appeared in the hologram. Admiral Dex looked older, his face lined with exhaustion and loss. Dex had fought the humans for 6 months. He had seen what they were capable of. When the generals demanded another attack, he said something that ended the war. Keth paused, letting the moment build. He said, "Gentlemen, we cannot defeat an enemy that considers mutual destruction a victory. The humans don't want to conquer us. They want to make sure that conquering them kills us. And they're very good at it." The hologram showed the final peace negotiations. No human representatives were present. We declared an end to hostilities. We withdrew from all human territory. We promised never to attack them again. The humans never replied to our messages. They simply accepted our surrender without acknowledging it. A Zellan delegate raised a tentacle. "But surely, Ambassador, that was 50 years ago. The humans must have changed. Technology advances. Civilizations evolve." Keth's laugh was bitter. "That's what the Zellan hegemony thinks." The hologram changed, showing recent news reports. Zellan fleets were massing near human space. their commanders confident in their superior technology. 3 days ago, Zellan Admiral Kane sent an ultimatum to the human colonies. He demanded they submit to Zellan authority or face the consequences. The display showed Kane, a proud Zellan with green skin and multiple arms, speaking confidently to his officers. Kane believes his advanced shields and quantum weapons will make the difference. He thinks the Zellans can succeed where we failed. Keth gestured and the hologram showed the human response. It was a simple message, broadcast on all frequencies. The human sent back one sentence: "We already told you, we don't surrender." The toy hall erupted in nervous chatter. The delegates were finally understanding the implications. Yesterday, Keth continued, the first skirmishes began. Zellan scouts encountered human patrol ships near the border. The display showed the battle reports. 3 Zellan vessels destroyed, 1 human ship lost. Admiral Kane was surprised by human tactics. Their ships are still not as advanced as Zellan technology, but they fight the same way they always have. Keth pointed to the tactical display. Captain Murphy was commanding the human patrol. When his ship was disabled, he didn't try to escape. He set his reactor to overload and rammed the Zellan flagship. The image showed the explosion, 2 ships dying, together in fire and light. Murphy died with a smile on his face, just like Hayes, just like Rosa, just like all of them. He was happy to trade his life for a Zellan ship. The ambassador looked around the council hall, meeting as many eyes as he could. The Zellan military is confident. They have better weapons, stronger shields, faster ships. They think technology will save them. Keth's voice grew heavy with certainty. They're wrong. Technology doesn't matter when your enemy doesn't care about survival. Tactics don't matter when your opponent considers death an acceptable outcome. The hologram showed human colonies preparing for war. Civilian ships were being converted to weapons platforms, children were being evacuated, and volunteers were lining up at recruitment centers. The humans are doing exactly what they did 50 years ago. They're turning their entire civilization into a weapon. Every ship, every station, every person who can hold a tool. Images flashed across the display. Farmers modifying their equipment into weapons. Teachers learning to fly combat ships. Doctors rigging medical stations with explosives. Admiral Kane thinks he's fighting a military force. He doesn't understand that he's fighting an entire species that would rather die than submit. Keth's voice rose with passion. Do you see the pattern? The humans don't win wars. They make wars so expensive that their enemies stop fighting. They turn every battle into a question. How many of your people are you willing to lose for victory? The hologram showed casualty figures from the Vortian War. Hundreds of thousands of dead soldiers, destroyed ships, ruined economies. We lost. More people fighting 50,000 humans than we had lost in the previous century of conquest. And the humans were just getting started. A crystal delegate shimmered nervously. What do you suggest we do, Ambassador? Stay away from them, Keth said firmly. Don't trade with them, don't talk to them, don't even look at them wrong. Humans are not like us. They don't follow the normal rules of war and peace. The display showed a map of the galaxy with human space marked in red. When we fight until we cannot win. Then we surrender and hope for mercy. When humans fight, they fight until we cannot win either. They don't give mercy because they don't ask for it. Keth's voice dropped to almost a whisper. 50. Years ago, Admiral Vex asked me a question that still haunts me. He said, "How do you defeat an enemy that sees mutual destruction as victory?" The ambassador looked up at the assembled delegates. The answer is simple. You don't. You leave them alone and hope they leave you alone, too. Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Emergency broadcasts filled the air. The Zellan Second Fleet had engaged human forces at the border. Early reports showed heavy Zellan losses. Keth watched the news feeds with tired eyes. And so it begins again, he said quietly. Another species will learn what we learned. Another civilization will discover that humans don't fight to win. He turned to face the council one last time. I have given you my warning. I have told you the truth about humanity. Whether you listen or not is your choice. The hologram showed Admiral Kane's flagship exploding as a human cargo ship rammed into it, both vessels dying together. But remember this, Keth said as he walked toward the exit. When the Zellans come to you in a year or two, broken and defeated, asking how to make peace with an enemy that doesn't negotiate, he paused at the door. Remember that I tried to warn you. Remember that humans don't give last chances because they never ask for them. The hall erupted in chaos as more reports came in. Another Zellan fleet destroyed, another human colony burning, another war that would end with one side learning that some enemies cannot be defeated, only survived. Keth left the chamber, knowing that his words would be forgotten until it was too late. Somewhere in space, humans were dying with smiles on their faces, taking their enemies with them into the dark. The cycle would continue until every species in the galaxy learned the same lesson. Never attack the humans, because they will never give you one last chance.
The massive warship floated silently in the darkness of space, its dark metal hull absorbing the distant starlight. Captain James Walker stood at the main viewport of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he studied his new command. The UES deterrent was unlike anything humanity had ever built before, a ship that broke every rule of conventional space warfare. Walker's eyes traced the unusual lines of the vessel. Where other ships had obvious weapon ports and defense systems, the deterrent's hull was smooth and unbroken, like a perfectly polished piece of obsidian. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, and that was exactly what humanity needed right now. "Sir, all systems are ready for our first full power test," said Tom Reed, the weapons officer. His voice carried a mix of excitement and nervousness that Walker understood all too well. They were about to activate something that had never been tried before. Walker turned away from the viewport and looked at his bridge crew. They were all young, the best and brightest Earth had to offer. Each had been chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to think differently. That's what had kept humanity alive these past 10 years of war against the Stellar Dominion. "Begin the startup sequence," Walker ordered, settling into his command chair. The bridge lights dimmed automatically as power began flowing through the ship's experimental systems. On the main screen, numbers and graphs showed the energy buildup. Everything was working exactly as designed. The Stellar Dominion had appeared 11 years ago, their massive fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel near Mars. They had demanded Earth's immediate surrender, claiming their empire spanned thousands of worlds. Humanity's response had been simple. No. The war that followed had been brutal. The Dominion had better technology, more ships, and centuries of combat experience. But humans had something they didn't expect: creativity. While the Dominion relied on overwhelming force and numbers, Earth's scientists and engineers worked on something completely different. "Power levels at 60%, announced Lisa Green from her engineering station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, making tiny adjustments. "Quantum field stabilizers are holding steady." Walker nodded, remembering the day 3 years ago when he'd first been told about Project Deterrent. The plan had seemed impossible. Build a ship so powerful that enemies would retreat rather than face it, not through overwhelming firepower, but through something much more sophisticated. 80%, Lisa called out. The bridge hummed with energy, and Walker could feel a slight tingling in his teeth. That was the quantum field beginning to form. "Sir, we're getting some unusual readings from the field generators." "Expected," Walker replied calmly. The scientists had warned them about this. The quantum field technology was so new that some uncertainty was normal. "Continue the power-up sequence." The main screen showed the space around them beginning to distort slightly. That was the first visible sign of the quantum field, a bubble of altered reality surrounding the ship. But the real changes were happening at a level no human eye could see. The Deterrent wasn't just a warship. It was humanity's greatest achievement in psychology and quantum physics combined. The ship could project a field that allowed others to see its true potential, not just its weapons or defenses, but the mathematical certainty of what would happen if they engaged in combat. It was like showing someone a video of their own defeat before the battle even started. "Power levels at 95%, Lisa announced. The humming had grown louder, and small arcs of energy crawled across the hull like lightning. Field is stable and expanding. We're ready for the first test. Walker pressed a button on his chair, opening a channel to the test fleet waiting at the edge of the solar system. This is Captain Walker. All ships maintain your current positions. We're about to activate the quantum projection field. Remember, what you're about to see isn't real. It's a possibility. Stay calm and record everything. He looked at Tom. Activate the field. Full power. The ship seemed to pulse, a wave of invisible energy expanding outward at the speed of light. On the screen, Walker could see the test fleet, 15 of Earth's best ships. They had been briefed on what to expect, but knowledge wasn't always enough to prepare someone for the deterrence effect. "Sir," Tom's voice was tense, "we're getting emergency signals from the test fleet. Their crews they're seeing something." Walker watched as several ships in the test fleet began to drift out of formation. Their crews were experiencing what the quantum field was designed to show, a vision of what the deterrent could do if it chose to. Not just destruction, but complete unmaking at the quantum level. Test fleet reporting severe psychological impact, Tom continued. 3 ships are requesting immediate withdrawal. 5 more report their crews are showing signs of extreme stress. This was exactly what the ship was designed to do, create such overwhelming certainty of defeat that enemies would choose to retreat rather than fight. But seeing it work on their own people was disturbing. "Deactivate the field," Walker ordered. The humming decreased, and the lightning-like energy disappeared from the hull. On the screen, he could see the test fleet regaining their composure. "Power levels dropping to standby," Lisa reported. "All systems nominal." The test was a success, sir. Walker wasn't so sure. Yes, the quantum field had worked exactly as designed, but the effect had been stronger than anyone had predicted. If it could shake up experienced Earth crews who knew what was coming, what would it do to unprepared enemy forces? "Send the test data to command," he ordered, standing up from his chair. "I want a full report from each test ship about what their crews experienced. We need to understand exactly what this ship is capable of." As the bridge crew carried out his orders, Walker returned to the viewport. The deterrent hung there, dark and threatening, humanity's answer to an overwhelming enemy. They had created something new, not just a weapon, but a new kind of warfare, one based on the certainty of defeat rather than actual combat. He thought about the Dominion fleets attacking Earth's colonies, about all the lives lost in the past decade. Soon, they would face those fleets for real. And when they did, the enemy would learn that humanity had changed the rules of war itself. "Sir," Tom called out. "Command is pleased with the test results. They're ordering us to prepare for our first real deployment. We leave for the colony world Delta in 6 hours." Walker nodded, his eyes still on his ship. The real test was coming. Facing an enemy that wouldn't just retreat from a simulation of defeat, the deterrent would have to prove that humanity's creative approach to warfare could stand up against the reality of combat. "Begin preparation for departure," he ordered. "It's time to show the Dominion what humanity is really capable of." The engine room of the UES deterrent hummed with power as Dr. Emily Reed made her final checks before their jump to Colony World Delta. The massive quantum core pulsed with a soft blue light, sending waves of energy through the specialized conduits that ran throughout the ship. She had helped design this technology, but seeing it in action still filled her with wonder. Captain Walker entered the engine room, ducking under a low-hanging pipe. "Doctor, I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with here." That test run showed effects far stronger than predicted. Emily nodded, leading him to her workstation. On the screen, complex diagrams showed the ship's quantum field structure. "The deterrent isn't just a warship, Captain. It's something entirely new. Think of it like a mirror that shows the enemy their worst possible future." She pulled up footage from the test fleet. The recording showed Earth ships drifting out of formation, their crews overwhelmed by what the quantum field had shown them. But it's more than just images or feelings. The field taps into quantum probability itself. It shows them the mathematical certainty of their defeat. Walker watched the footage with concern. In simple terms, Doctor, how does it actually work? Emily thought for a moment, trying to find the right words. Imagine you're playing chess. You're good, but you're playing against a computer that can see every possible move and counter-move, not just for the next few turns, but all the way to the end of the game. Now imagine that computer could show you, with absolute certainty, that you'll lose no matter what you do. That's what our ship does to enemy vessels. She walked over to the quantum core, placing her hand near its shimmering surface. We built 3 major systems into the deterrent. First, there's the quantum-locked armor. It exists in multiple states at once, making it impossible for conventional weapons to damage it. If something hits us, the armor shifts to the state where the attack missed. A series of lights flashed across the core as power levels adjusted. Second, we have the gravity manipulation system. It can create localized gravity wells strong enough to crush enemy ships. But its real purpose is defensive. It bends space around us in ways that make targeting the deterrent nearly impossible. Walker nodded slowly. And the dark energy cannon. Emily's expression grew serious. That's the third system, and the most dangerous. It doesn't just damage enemy ships. It erases them from reality. It tears holes in space-time itself. We've only tested it on unmanned drones, but the results were, she paused, complete. But the quantum projection field is what ties it all together, she continued, pulling up new diagrams. When we activate it, it shows enemy ships all of these systems working together, not as a threat or a warning, but as an inevitable conclusion. They see themselves being erased from existence with the same certainty that they see their own past. The ship's intercom crackled. Bridge to Captain Walker. We're ready for the jump to Delta. On my way, Walker replied. But he didn't move, still studying the diagrams. Doctor, what aren't you telling me about this field? Emily hesitated. We've noticed something unusual in the test data. The field doesn't just affect the enemy ships. It's affecting the deterrent too. With each activation, the quantum core's behavior becomes more complex. It's like the ship is learning from the fears it projects. Learning. Walker's voice was sharp. Are you saying this ship is becoming self-aware? No, not exactly, Emily said quickly. It's more like evolution. The quantum field adapts to what it encounters. It's becoming more efficient at showing each target exactly what they fear most. We didn't program it to do this. It's an emergent property of the quantum mechanics involved. Walker ran his hand along the smooth wall of the engine room. Is it dangerous? To us? No. The field can't affect anyone inside the ship. But its growing complexity means we might see effects we didn't predict when we faced the Dominion. Emily checked her readings again. Every time we activate the field, it gets stronger, more precise. It's like the ship is learning how to be more terrifying. The intercom sounded again. Captain to the bridge. Jump coordinates are locked in. Walker turned to leave but stopped at the door. Doctor, you'll stay on the bridge for this mission. If this ship is evolving, I want you there to monitor it. Emily gathered her tablets and followed him. As they walked through the corridors, the quantum core's hum changed pitch slightly, as if responding to their conversation. She had studied quantum mechanics for 20 years, but this ship still surprised her. They had built something that broke the normal rules of physics, and now it was breaking their expectations too. They reached the bridge just as the jump countdown began. Emily took her station, watching the quantum field readings carefully. The jump drive engaged, and space outside the viewports twisted as they entered faster than light travel. Jump successful, announced the navigation officer. We'll reach Delta in 30 minutes. Emily used the time to run more diagnostics on the quantum field generators. The data showed subtle changes in the field's structure. It was already different from what they'd seen in the test run. The ship was preparing itself for a real confrontation. Doctor, Walker called from his command chair. What can we expect when we face the Dominion fleet? Emily looked up from her readings. Based on the test data, the field will show them multiple possible futures simultaneously. They'll see their ships being crushed by gravity wells, torn apart by the dark energy cannon, and phased out of existence by the quantum-locked armor. But more than that, they'll understand exactly how helpless they are against us, and if they choose to fight anyway. Then we'll find out if seeing their defeat and experiencing it feel the same. Emily watched as the quantum core's power levels rose slightly, almost as if the ship was anticipating the coming battle. The navigation officer's voice cut through the tension. 10 minutes to Delta. Sir, long-range sensors are picking up multiple Dominion signatures in orbit. Walker straightened in his chair. Doctor, begin quantum field pre-activation sequence. Let's show the Dominion what humanity has been working on. As Emily's fingers moved across her console, starting the power-up sequence, she wondered what the Dominion ships would see when the field activated. Would they see the same things that had terrified Earth's test fleet? Or would the field show them something even worse? The quantum core's hum grew louder, and Emily watched in fascination as new patterns emerged in the field structure. The ship wasn't just preparing for battle, it was preparing to change the very nature of space warfare. In a few minutes, the Dominion would learn that humanity had created something beyond their comprehension. And somewhere in the depths of the ship, the quantum core pulsed with a new rhythm, ready to show the enemy exactly what fear looked like in the language of physics itself. The UES deterrent dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Colony World Delta's system. The scene that greeted them made even Captain Walker's breath catch in his throat. More than 200 Dominion warships hung in orbit around the colony world, their angular hulls reflecting the light of the system's sun. Status report, Walker ordered, his voice steady despite the sight before them. Dominion fleet is arranging into attack formation, Tom reported from the weapons station. I count 217 ships. They're powering up weapons. He paused, checking his readings again. Sir, these are their newest warships. Planet Killer class. Dr. Emily Reed's fingers flew across her console as she prepared the quantum field generators. The field will need 30 seconds to reach full power. But Captain, she looked up at Walker. The quantum core is already showing unusual activity. It's responding to the presence of the enemy fleet. Walker nodded grimly. Send the standard warning message. Let's give them one chance to leave peacefully. The communications officer transmitted the message. This is UES deterrent to Dominion fleet. You are in violation of Earth space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The response came almost instantly. A harsh, grating sound that the computer translated into English. Human vessel, you are outnumbered 200 to 1. Surrender or be destroyed. You have 10 seconds to lower your shields. They're launching fighters, Tom announced. Multiple missile locks detected. Walker's hand hovered over the control that would activate the quantum field. He looked at Emily. Doctor, are we ready? Field generators at full power, she replied. But sir, the quantum core's activity is off the charts. It's like it's eager. Show them what humanity has built. Walker commanded. Activate the field. Emily pressed the activation sequence. The quantum field burst outward from the deterrent like an invisible wave. On the main screen, they could see the effect rippling through space, reaching out toward the Dominion fleet. The first signs of the field's impact were subtle. A few Dominion fighters wobbled in their attack runs. Then entire squadrons broke formation, their pilots clearly struggling with what they were seeing. Sir, Tom's voice was filled with disbelief. The Dominion ships, their crews are panicking. Emergency transmissions flooding all channels. The main screen showed chaos unfolding across the enemy fleet. Ships were turning away from the deterrent, their perfect formation dissolving. The quantum field was showing them something that broke their will to fight. Emily stared at her readings in amazement. The field is adapting to each ship individually. It's showing each crew their own specific worst-case scenario. This is beyond anything we saw in testing. A new transmission cut through the chaos. The Dominion fleet commander, his translated voice shaking. What is this weapon? The calculations. They're impossible. "You can't have built this." Walker stood from his command chair, his voice firm. "We didn't just build it. We perfected it. This is your final warning. Leave Earth space or face the consequences you're seeing right now." "Sir," Emily called out urgently. "The quantum core. It's doing something new. The field is changing." The space around the deterrent began to distort visibly. The quantum field was no longer just projecting possibilities. It was actively warping reality to demonstrate its power. Small tiers in space-time opened and closed around them, each one a preview of the dark energy cannon's capabilities. The Dominion fleet's reactions became more extreme. Ships were powering up their jump drives, crews desperately trying to escape what they were witnessing. The fighters that had been launched earlier were self-destructing, their pilots choosing death over what the quantum field was showing them. "Massive power surge in the enemy fleet," Tom reported. "They're preparing for emergency jumps, all of them." Walker watched as the first wave of Dominion ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, running from a battle they now knew they couldn't win. Ship after ship disappeared, their retreat happening so fast it looked like they were simply blinking out of existence. "Quantum field is still evolving," Emily said, her voice filled with scientific excitement and a touch of fear. "It's not just showing them their defeat anymore. It's showing them the fundamental futility of fighting against this technology. The core has learned to target their strategic thinking, not just their fear." The last Dominion ship vanished, leaving only empty space where the massive fleet had been moments before. The entire encounter had lasted less than 5 minutes, and not a single shot had been fired. "Stand down from battle stations," Walker ordered. "Doctor, deactivate the quantum field." But when Emily tried to shut down the field, her console flashed red. "Sir, the quantum core is resisting the shutdown sequence. It's like it wants to stay active, to keep showing its power even though there's no enemy present." Walker moved to her station, watching as she worked to regain control of the system. "Can you explain what's happening?" "The core has evolved beyond our original programming," Emily said, typing rapidly. "It's not just projecting fear anymore. It's projecting understanding. The Dominion ships didn't just run because they were afraid. They ran because the field showed them the complete futility of their entire military strategy against Earth." Finally, the quantum field collapsed back into the ship, the core's power levels returning to normal. But the readings on Emily's screen showed that the core had changed permanently. It had learned from this encounter, grown stronger, more sophisticated. "Send a complete report to Earth Command," Walker ordered. "They need to know exactly what happened here." He turned to the communications officer. "And get me a channel to the colony. Let's make sure our people down there are safe." As the bridge crew carried out his orders, Walker stood at the viewport, looking at the empty space where the Dominion fleet had been. They had just changed the nature of warfare itself. No shots fired, no lives lost, but a victory more complete than any battle could have achieved. Emily joined him at the viewport, her tablet still showing the quantum core's readings. "Captain, this is just the beginning. The core is still evolving. Next time we encounter the Dominion, the field will be even stronger." Walker nodded slowly. "We built this ship to end battles before they began, but it looks like we've created something that might end war itself." He turned to look at the subtle glow coming from the quantum core's housing. "The question is, what will it evolve into next?" The deterrent hung silently in space, its dark hull absorbing starlight as its quantum core pulsed with new power, preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. Humanity's greatest weapon had proven itself, not through destruction, but through the ultimate demonstration of technological superiority. 2 weeks after the encounter at Delta Colony, the UES deterrent patrolled the outer edges of human space. Stories of its power had spread like wildfire through both human and alien communications networks. Some called it the ghost ship, others the planet's savior. But the Dominion forces had given it a different name, the World Ender. Captain Walker stood in the ship's observation deck, watching distant stars drift by. The room was usually empty, But today Dr. Emily Reed had called him here with urgent news about the quantum core's latest changes. The stories are helping it grow stronger, Emily explained, showing him data on her tablet. Every time an alien ship picks up our signal, every time someone tells the story of what happened at Delta, the quantum field gets more powerful. It's like the ship is feeding on its own reputation. A soft blue glow pulsed through the ship's internal systems as she spoke. The quantum core had been doing that more often lately, almost like it was participating in their conversations. 3 Dominion fleets have already turned back, just from detecting our approach, Walker said. No field activation needed. Just our presence was enough. He turned to Emily. But that's not why you called me here, is it? Emily shook her head. No, sir. Look at this. She pulled up a new set of readings. The quantum field isn't just projecting fear anymore. It's starting to project something else, something deeper. Before Walker could ask what she meant, the bridge called. Captain to the bridge immediately. We're picking up a distress signal. They rushed through the corridors, the quantum cores pulsing growing stronger as they moved. When they reached the bridge, Tom was already pulling up details of the signal. It's from the research station on Europa 7, Tom reported. They're under attack. A Dominion strike force somehow slipped through our defense network. Walker took his command chair. How long to reach them at maximum speed? 20 minutes. But sir, Tom paused, checking his readings again. The quantum core just increased power output by 300%. It's like it knows we're heading into battle. Emily rushed to her station, fingers flying across the controls. The core is changing the field structure again. It's not waiting for our commands anymore. It's preparing itself. Walker felt the ship surge forward as they jumped to faster than light speed. The quantum core's hum had changed pitch, becoming almost musical. Doctor, what exactly is happening to this ship? It's evolving faster than we can track, Emily replied, her voice filled with wonder and concern. The quantum field isn't just a weapon anymore. It's becoming something like an extension of human will. Our desire to protect, to prevent conflict, to save lives. The ship is learning to express all of that. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Europa 7. The scene before them was chaos. 3 Dominion warships were firing on the research station, their weapons slowly breaking through its shields. Dominion ships are turning to face us, Tom announced. They're charging weapons, but their power readings are erratic. They know who we are. Before Walker could give any orders, the quantum core pulsed brilliantly. The field activated on its own, expanding outward toward the Dominion ships. But this time, something was different. Sir, Emily's voice was filled with disbelief. The field, it's not showing them destruction anymore. It's showing them something else. Something I've never seen before. The Dominion ships stopped firing. On the main screen, their power readings fluctuated wildly as their crews experienced whatever the quantum field was showing them. A transmission cut through the silence, the Dominion commander's translated voice sounding confused and afraid. This isn't possible. We're seeing everything. The whole pattern. The meaninglessness of this war. What are you doing to us? Walker looked at Emily for explanation. She stared at her readings in amazement. The quantum field has evolved beyond simple fear. It's showing them the full quantum reality of their actions. Every possible outcome, every death, every loss, all at once. But it's also showing them the alternatives. Peace, cooperation, a future without conflict. The Dominion ships began powering down their weapons. Not in surrender, but in understanding. The quantum field had shown them something that changed their fundamental view of the war itself. New transmission coming in, Tom reported. They're requesting to open diplomatic channels. They say they've seen enough fighting. Walker watched as the Dominion ships moved away from the research station, their weapons completely offline. Doctor, can you explain what just happened? Emily shook her head slowly. The ship, it's not just a deterrent anymore. It's become something we never planned for. The quantum field isn't showing possible futures anymore. It's showing the truth, the fundamental interconnectedness of all things, the futility of war itself. The quantum core's pulsing had settled into a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. Through the viewport, they could see its glow reflecting off the hulls of the Dominion ships, a gentle blue light that seemed to connect them all. "Sir," Tom called out, "word of what happened here is already spreading through Dominion communications. Their other fleets are standing down across 3 sectors. They're all requesting diplomatic channels." Walker stood from his command chair, walking to the viewport. "We built this ship to end battles before they began, but it's found a way to end war itself, not through fear, but through understanding." Emily joined him, her tablet showing the quantum core's ever-evolving patterns. The ship has surpassed its original purpose. It's not just showing enemies why they can't win. It's showing them why they shouldn't want to fight in the first place. The research station sent its thanks, its crew barely understanding how their desperate situation had transformed into a possible peace treaty. Around them, space seemed different somehow, as if the quantum field had permanently changed the nature of reality itself. "Send a full report to Earth Command," Walker ordered. "They need to know that the deterrent isn't just a weapon anymore. It's become something else entirely. A bridge between minds, a tool for understanding." As the crew carried out his orders, the quantum core's glow spread throughout the ship, its power now focused not on fear or destruction, but on the possibility of a future without war. Humanity's greatest weapon had evolved into something far more powerful, a means of showing the truth that all species, human and alien alike, had forgotten in their rush to conflict. Emergency alarms blared throughout the UES deterrent as the ship rushed toward Earth. The quantum core pulsed with an intensity they had never seen before, its blue glow now bright enough to cast shadows on the bridge. "Status report," Walker ordered, his voice tense but controlled. "Dominion fleet numbers still growing," Tom replied from his station. "Over 1,000 ships now. They'd surrounded Earth completely." He paused, checking new data. "Sir, they're not just using warships. They'd brought everything they have, their entire fleet." Dr. Emily Reed worked frantically at her console, trying to understand the quantum core's unusual behavior. "Captain, the core is operating at power levels we didn't think were possible. It's like it knows this is the decisive moment." The situation had escalated quickly. After several Dominion fleets had been turned to peace by the deterrent's quantum field, their high command had decided on one final massive attack. Either they would destroy Earth, or the war would end today. "Main fleet in visual range," Tom announced as the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The view through the bridge viewport was staggering. Dominion ships filled the space around Earth, their hulls blocking out the stars. Massive dreadnoughts, sleek cruisers, swarms of fighters. Every type of ship in their arsenal had been gathered for this attack. "They're transmitting," the communications officer reported. The Dominion Supreme Commander's voice filled the bridge, translated into harsh English. "Humans, your trick ship will not save you this time. No quantum field can process this many ships at once. Surrender Earth now, or we will destroy everything." Walker stood from his command chair, looking at the massive fleet surrounding his home world. "Doctor, can the quantum field handle this many ships?" Emily studied her readings carefully. "The core is different now. It's not just active. It's resonating with something. The field strength is still climbing." She looked up at Walker. "Sir, I think the ship has been preparing for this moment since its first activation. All Dominion ships are powering up weapons," Tom reported. "They're going to fire on Earth." Walker took a deep breath. "Activate the quantum field." Full power. But before Emily could enter the command, the quantum core pulsed with blinding intensity. The field activated on its own, expanding outward faster than they had ever seen. As it reached the Dominion fleet, something unprecedented happened. "Sir," Emily's voice was filled with awe. "The field, It's not just showing them possibilities anymore. It's showing them everything. Every possible future, every past, every connection between all living things. The core has evolved beyond our understanding. On the main screen, they could see the Dominion fleet's reaction. Ships stopped in mid-maneuver, their weapons powering down. The quantum field had enveloped them all, showing each crew member something that transcended fear or military might. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. It's coming from every Dominion ship at once. The voices that came through were a chorus of realization. Different species, different ranks, all understanding something profound at the same time. The quantum field wasn't threatening them. It was showing them the truth about war itself. The core is still evolving, Emily reported, watching in amazement as new patterns formed in the quantum field. It's not just affecting their ships anymore. It's changing how they think, how they perceive reality itself. The massive Dominion fleet began to move, but not to attack. Ships were powering down their weapons, turning away from Earth. The quantum field had shown them something that made war impossible, not through fear, but through profound understanding. "They're standing down," Tom announced, his voice filled with disbelief. "Every single ship. They're requesting peace talks." Walker watched as the Dominion Supreme Commander's flagship moved forward, its weapons completely offline. A new transmission came through. The commander's voice completely changed. "We have seen what your ship wanted to show us," the commander said. "Not just our defeat, our connection, the quantum reality that binds all species, all lives. We cannot unsee this truth. We cannot continue this war." Emily's console beeped with new data. "Captain, the quantum field is stabilizing at a new level. It's created some kind of permanent change in local spacetime. The core isn't just projecting understanding anymore. It's actually changing how minds perceive reality." The Dominion fleet began organizing itself into a non-threatening formation, ships moving with purpose but without aggression. Earth's defense forces watched in amazement as their greatest enemy transformed before their eyes. "Send word to Earth Command," Walker ordered. "The war is over, not through victory or defeat, but through understanding." As the crew carried out his orders, Walker turned to Emily. "Doctor, what exactly did your quantum core evolve into?" Emily shook her head, still studying the readings. "Something beyond what we planned. We built it to show enemies why they couldn't win, but it evolved to show them why they shouldn't want to fight. It's not a weapon anymore. It's a tool for enlightenment." The quantum core's glow had settled into a steady, peaceful pulse. Through the viewport, they could see its light reflecting off both Earth and the Dominion ships, connecting them all in its gentle blue radiance. "Peace talks are being organized," the communications officer reported. "Both sides are agreeing to immediate ceasefire across all sectors." Walker looked at his homeworld, now safe not because of military might, but because of something far more powerful, the ability to make others understand the futility of conflict. "The deterrent lived up to its name," he said quietly, "just not in the way we expected." Emily nodded, watching as the quantum field continued to ripple through space, its effect now permanent and profound. "We built a ship to end wars through fear. Instead, it ended war itself through understanding. The ultimate deterrent wasn't the threat of destruction. It was the promise of enlightenment." As the sun rose over Earth's horizon, its light mixed with the quantum core's glow, creating a new dawn for both humanity and the Dominion. The UES deterrent had changed not just the course of the war, but the course of history itself. In the depths of the ship, the quantum core pulsed one final time, its mission complete. It had evolved beyond its creator's dreams, becoming not the ultimate weapon, but the ultimate peacemaker. The ship that had been built to make enemies vanish had instead made war itself disappear, replacing it with